Thank you so much for joining us on our news desk and a very warm welcome. In our headlines, ActionAid Zambia has warned of an economic collapse if debt restructuring measures are not taken seriously. Mines Minister Paul Kabuswe says new investors in Mopani copper mines will be secured by the end of this quarter. And the Water Resources Management Authority, WAMA, has warned of the risk of water resource contamination in Lusaka. And now the news in detail. ActionAid Zambia has warned of an economic collapse if debt restructuring measures are not taken seriously. The organization is concerned that the delays in debt restructuring process will negatively affect Zambia's ambitious economic recovery program. In a statement obtained by Q News, ActionAid Zambia Interim Country Director Msonda Kalinga has since called on the Official Creditors Committee to recognize this need and accelerate the negotiation process. Mr. Kalinga states that similarly, as government explores alternatives in the debt restructuring process, ActionAid calls on the Debt Management Office to adhere to the principles of transparency and accountability, outing the interests of the Zambian people first, particularly in light of any unfavorable economic conditions. He further calls on the duty bearers and elected officials to remain vigilant in the debt restructuring process to minimize the risk of extended preparatory financing and exploitative agreements between the Zambian government and their creditors. Government has estimated that the debt restructuring under the G20 Common Framework would be concluded in the first half of 2023, and this would then provide the much-needed fiscal space for government to maneuver and establish long-term sustainability. Mopani Copper Mines will secure a new investor by the end of the quarter. The end of this quarter, rather, Mines Minister Paul Kabuswe has said, calling the mine owned by state mining investment firm ZCCM Investment Holding a critical asset for the copper belt. Mr. Kabuswe has told Reuters in an interview on the sidelines of the mining endeavor in Cape Town, South Africa, that there are 10 suitors for the mine and smelter complex, including South Africa listed mining firm Sibanye Stillwater and 1 or 2 Chinese mining firms. Asked about the competition for African metals and minerals pitting the United States and Europe against China, Mr. Kabuswe said Zambia did not differentiate between investors provided they brought value into the country. He adds that an agreement with Konkola Copper Mines owner Vendetta Resources by the end of the first quarter is also imminent. Zambia last year decided to seek an out-of-court settlement with Vedanta after a lengthy dispute over KCM. Mr. Kabuswe states that increasing Zambia's copper production is necessary to reduce the country's debt burden, as growth in the mining industry will trigger investment in infrastructure and other sectors. Zambia has set a goal of increasing copper production to 3 million tons a year by 2032. The Water Resources Management Authority, WAMA, has warned that Lusaka is at risk of having groundwater resource contamination. WAMA Director General Kenneth Nyundu says this is due to the floods being experienced. Speaking when he paid a courtesy call on Lusaka City Council Town Clerk, Mr. Nyundu has warned that compounds such as Chawama, Kalikiriki, Kanyama and Nisis have a high risk of groundwater contamination, a situation he says is a health hazard. He says most households in the named areas have installed boreholes and wells in a 10-meter radius from pit latrines. Mr. Nyundu states that this situation has the potential to contaminate groundwater if sewage washes off the flood water and mixes with drinking water. WAMA Director General has since implored the Lusaka City Council Town Clerk to ensure the allocation of plots in Lusaka is done in a systematic way to avoid having wells and boreholes within the radius of 20 meters.
Where people are giving plots 15 by 20, which means the well or borehole and the septic tank or pit latrine will just be within 10 meters. Ideally, when you're pumping here, you're just emptying what is going here. Now that it is raining and most of the places are flooded, everything has mixed up. And it's just by the grace of God that God has not yet come. It seems there's serious resilience among our population here, because you can't explain it. The places are polluted. They are drinking seriously polluted water in most of these residential areas. And I think looking at the city town center, garbage, they have no toilets, they're using flying toilets. It's pathetic. And our groundwater is seriously polluted. But one day we may face a catastrophe. So these are matters I think we really need to look at collectively to ensure that we minimize or avoid such areas.
And the Town Clerk Brighton Baimbai has assured Wama that the council will work with the institution in ensuring that all necessary public institutions are consulted before a plot is allocated to an individual.
Asking for collaboration to a level of signing a memorandum of understanding is most welcome, and I think you are pushing an open door. We cannot run away from the many challenges that have come with the haphazard planning that we are experiencing in these cities of ours in Zambia today. You are the regulator. You also want to protect the resources from contamination. We've talked about drillers wanting to make money by duping the uninformed local authorities or indeed individuals. We are very thankful for that information. But I heard you talk about the sizes of plots. I don't know whether Lusaka still has land where we can give plots in future.
President Hakainde Hichilema says government is determined to unlock Zambia's economic potential through partnerships with other countries in order to promote economic development in the country. President Hichilema says government is committed to harnessing the energy, agriculture and mining sectors, among others, through strong partnerships with established companies from the United Arab Emirates who have expertise in the said areas. He adds that government welcomes interventions from the United Arab Emirates aimed at investing in the energy sector, which is currently experiencing challenges of electricity deficits due to low water levels in the Kariba Dam. The head of state said this when a delegation from the United Arab Emirates paid a courtesy call on him at State House. He says the United Arab Emirates has a huge understanding of renewable energy and hope the problems that the energy sector is facing will be addressed following the visit by the delegation from that country. Mr. Hichilema further stated that Zambia is blessed with favorable climate conditions, adding that there is need to exploit the agriculture sector, which has potential to grow the economy and improve people's livelihoods. On mining, the president said the country is endowed with various mineral resources, which once exploited by the UAE investors will turn around the country's economy. President Hichilema said he is happy with the speedy and rapid response from King Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk, who is a member of the ruling family of Dubai in the UAE, for leading a delegation to Zambia and exploring investment opportunities. And Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk expressed happiness to invest in different sectors such as energy, forestry, agriculture and mining in Zambia. He said the UAE is interested to invest in Zambia and develop the carbon abatement projects through reforestation and renewable energy projects. The Zambian government and the Blue Carbon of ABU Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, have signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at developing initiatives to be added to the framework for bilateral cooperation for development of low-carbon strategies, activities, projects and programs, specifically the development of various carbon emission reduction projects in the forestry sector in Zambia. Green Economy and Environment Minister Collins Nzovu says with this signing, Zambia, as chair of the African Group of Negotiators on Climate Change and the United Arab Emirates, is incoming COP28 president will showcase the collaboration in the carbon market at COP299.
Will also create synergies and identify projects for COP28, including identifying forest areas and regions that can be utilized to earn carbon credits. This is key for us. As you are aware, we are chair of the African Group of Negotiators, and also we are privileged to receive the COP28 presidency represented by His Highness here, and also carry out any other projects of mutual interest, including water harvesting, a push in the renewable sector, just like we signed the solar deal with Mazda, ZESCO and Mazda, and also disaster risks assessments, mitigation and responses. The signing of this MOU therefore marks a significant step towards decarbonization efforts in Zambia and represents a long-term partnership between the parties aimed at addressing climate change.
We need to study the carbon credit available in the country and how to improve and bring more income to the country. But we are at the first stage of this, and hopefully there will be more studies, more teams that will be coming. And with the support of His Excellency the Minister, we have been assured that all needed support from the government will be given.
Chapter 1 Foundation has stressed the need for the Republican Constitution to strengthen the autonomy of the legislature and judiciary in order to provide them with opportunity to carry out their roles effectively to benefit the democracy of the Zambian people. Organization Executive Director Linda Kasonde says strengthening the two arms of government will also help to provide meaningful checks and balances on the executive in which too much power is concentrated. Ms. Kasonde has observed that the successive attempts at constitutional reforms have failed to liberate the people of Zambia from restrictions on participation in the political space and, if anything, have increased the political tension in the country.
So in my response, civil society has long advocated for a legislative process, and that is one of the findings in the diagnostic study that I'm mentioning in my presentation. We've long advocated for legislative, a law being put in place that will protect and guide the process of constitutional reform. And the reason why we've long advocated for that is because historically, the process of constitutional reform has been hijacked by people in power to suit their own ends. Ms. Longway coined the term that they cherry pick what they want to see in the Constitution and leave out everything else. So it's important that, as I mentioned earlier, the process of constitutional reform is a people-driven process. And by that we mean that the will and aspirations of the people are what is contained in the final document. And as you know, with some of the constitutional reform processes, I believe it was the Manakatwa process, in which about 80% of the content that was presented to Parliament was rejected. And we don't want to see that happen going forward. So it's really important that we have this legal framework in place, a law that protects how the process will unfold and to protect it from.
The United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF, in partnership with the German government, has handed over cold chain equipment worth $2.4 million United States dollars to the Ministry of Health. Officiating at the handover ceremony in Lusaka, Minister of Health Sylvia Masebo said the cold chain equipment will help improve the storage of vaccines in health facilities, especially in remote areas. Ms. Masebo says this will in turn enhance the routine immunization, which aims at reducing the number of zero-dose children, under-immunized children, and missed communities in line with the Global Immunization Agenda 2030.
Through this partnership, with the government of Germany, KWF, and UNICEF. 287 vaccine refrigerators, 1,250 cold boxes, and 2,600 vaccine carriers, all worth a total sum of $2.4 million have been procured and are being handed over today. This will not only help the Ministry of Health to continue the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines through increased cold chain capacity at national, district, and health facility levels.
The support from the government of Germany has come at another crucial time, as the Ministry of Health continues to bring vaccines closer to people furthest to reach in the country. In addition, under this emergency grant of €5 million, there is also funding for the training of 1,000 healthcare workers in 50 priority districts in 10 provinces on COVID-19 vaccination, benefiting both the nationwide accelerated rollout of COVID-19 vaccines and the regular expanded program on immunization systems and services.
Since Zambia launched its COVID-19 vaccination program in April 2021. After a slow start, the new government relaunched the program in October 2021. And since then, Zambia has been undertaking an unprecedented rollout of the vaccination program. The results achieved to date are very impressive and commendable, as we have heard already. A vaccination rate coverage reaching almost 80% according to national statistics. I am convinced that the new funding from Germany under our Last Mile initiative will further boost Zambia's health system.
Police in charge of special duties, Fanuel Siandenge, to the arrest of Patriotic Front member of the Central Committee, Chimba Kambwili, on the charge of unlawful assembly. Mr. Changala says some police officers have a bone to chew with people in the former ruling party, whom they accuse of having perpetrated their misery when they lost their employment in the Zambia Police Service. He says these individuals are eager to settle old scores by using their officers to persecute perceived enemies within the Patriotic Front, a situation he says is uncalled for.
The case slapped on Mr. Kambwili does not hold water. Illegal assembly at his own house and sanctuary. That is abuse of office by the current regime and specifically by the head of state. I must say with a clear mind here that the police falls under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Minister of Home Affairs is Mr. Jack Mwimbu, a very level-headed citizen, and I can clearly, without any shadow of doubt, say here and now that I don't think he has a hand in this. I am fully convinced that this malpractice, abuse of power, is being engineered from State House and not from the Ministry of Home Affairs. We are having a challenge here that two senior constables, the IG being the #1 constable and Siandenge #2 constable, have issues with the previous regime and the previous politicians. Mr. Siandenge went into hiding as a fugitive, came back as a hero and commissioner at State House. Mr. IG was retired in nation.
Nothing is being done. He has appealed to Mr. Mchima to inform the nation of progress made, if any, on his public undertaking that Lusaka East Local Forest Reserve number 27 would be re-gazetted.
Sadly, since that time, we have been waiting patiently for Mr. Mchima to implement his assurance, but sadly, Mr. Mchima has maintained a deafening silence over the matter. So as concerned citizens, we now very politely and very respectfully request the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Elijah Muchima, to update the nation on what measures have so far been taken or instituted, if any, to re-gazette the controversial Forest Reserve number 27 in the public and national interest. We also insist that President Hakainde Hichilema, as the only authority with constitutional powers to gazette, de-gazette, or indeed re-gazette forests, should take special interest in the matter of the controversial Forest Reserve number 27 and not allow Mr. Muchima to contribute to the growing list of broken promises or perceived broken promises of our New Dawn United Party for National Development government.
Chikondi Foundation President Bishop John Mambo has charged that the former ruling Patriotic Front will find it difficult to bounce back to power even after rebranding. Bishop Mambo says the PF cannot be an option given their previous record while in office. He tells QTV News in an interview that God will find an alternative for Zambia, but not the Patriotic Front.
I am not a prophet, I will never be one. In Zambia, don't shoot yourself. Even if you rebrand, you don't come back. God will always find an alternative. If we don't work with the government of the day, the new Dawn government, and say, no, I will wake it up. That's a mistake for me. You see, the problem of power is once you're in power, you don't want to let it go. But the Zambians, look, please, you know, there's one thing I've said, and I give people free, I said, I know how Zambians change. I'm one of those up to the last week. I was telling everybody, had PF won, I was one of those in the fighting squad. I said, somebody like you. Because you know why? I remember with them Shanga boys. Regardless of my carrying the cross, I don't drink jugu. But I sit there and say, what do you find in this? Then the other thing, don't think people have forgotten if you did one thing wrong for them and you're not apologizing. You keep on saying you're coming back. It will not work. It won't be easy. It will not be easy. It has never been easy. Give me history. You need 27 years. Even the branding and all that. Bringing the late Musokotwane to lead that party. Did it come back? KK was there and he was loved and respected. Even after he decided to stay away, his children, it never. So all I'm saying is that, Kaya, if it happened, you ask me.
Opposition Citizens First President Harry Kalaba says the move by government to release 250,000 metric tons of maize to millers through the Food Reserve Agency aimed at reducing the price of mielie meal will not work. Mr. Kalaba says this is a temporal measure which will only last for 2 months before mielie meal prices return to a high. He says the measure is only a cosmetic and basic solution which is short-term. Mr. Kalaba adds that the Zambia National Service should be used to ensure national food security and produce mielie meal. He was speaking when he featured on the Hot Seat program. But speaking when he called in, Commerce, Trade and Industry Minister Chipoka Mlenga says while it is true that the price of mielie meal is too high and people are suffering, government has taken measures to reduce the price of mielie meal through the Food Reserve Agency subsidized maize to millers. The ruling UPND has dismissed assertions that President Hakainde Hichilema is being used to fight China and Russia by the United States. Party Deputy Secretary General Gertrude Emenda, who spoke to QTV News in an interview, has described as distractors those insinuating that the president is being used by the West to fight China. He says since Zambia gained independence, there has been a steady growth in relations with China.
When there's a monument, I don't know what to call it, a monument or a memorial, that's right. When we go to Chongwe, so President went to open that memorial for the Chinese people who died here in Zambia during the construction of Gazara. The president himself went there. Which other leader did he, which other people did he go to have a monument? The people from outside who are not Zambians, where the president went there to open a memorial, and he was there and so on. What does that tell you? What does that tell even those critics? Maybe they don't know, but they know, they are just pretending. At the press conference, I think you were there, the president still affirmed the relationship between Zambia and China. So these people, you know, these detractors, I would call them, they just wanted to capitalize and try to alienate our president, just because he's doing his best to try and rebuild this economy which they destroyed. This economy was in the ICU, and our president is working very hard. He's going here and there. The Chinese are already on board among the creditors. He has managed to bring them on board among the creditors for them to be the group of creditors that are going to negotiate our debt restructuring. The Chinese are there. And in addition, in fact, they are the ones we did not even, in that restructuring, whatever, the Chinese feature very prominently. Not even any other country features prominently than the Chinese. So what are these people talking about? He, at a press conference, he affirmed that the relationship, and I've given you all those examples. So what are they talking about? What do they want him to do? They are wasting their time, even if they think that they can alienate our president from the Chinese, because our relationship with the Chinese is firm and solid.
Government has unveiled a 20-member team to sit on the local organizing committee that will spearhead perpetrators for the successfully hosting of the 2023 Under-18 and Under-20 Confederations of Africa Athletics Junior Championship. Youth Sports Minister Elvis Nkandu says the ministry is in the process of rehabilitating the tartan tracks at both the National Hero Stadium and Olympic Youth Development Center, OIDC. Speaking at the unveiling of the committee, Nkandu says the committee will, among other things, be required to mobilize human material and financial resources to ensure a successful hosting of the championship.
I would like to thank the Confederation of African Athletics for granting Zambia the honor to host the prestigious event. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to inform you that the preparations to host this important national event are progressing very well. But before I proceed with the progress made so far, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the Republican President of our Republic, His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who granted us authority to host these Continental Junior Athletics Championships. You know that there must be a political will to this whole thing. His approval is an indication of his support to the development of sports and shows the confidence he has in the ministry to host these continental showcase. In view of the foregoing, the progress made so far to host this event includes the following. Number one, the Zambian government through my ministry and the Confederation of African Athletics, CAA, you are aware, signed the Memorandum of Understanding regarding the hosting of the 2023 Under-18 and Under-20 African Athletics Championship. Number two, moving on, the ministry is in the process of rehabilitating the tartan tracks at both the National Heroes Stadium and the OIDC Zambia Sports Development Center. That does not mean that there will be no other innovations that will take place. Obviously, you know that Hero Stadium needs a facelift. So obviously, apart from the tartan track, we are going to make sure that the other innovations takes place at Hero Stadium. The ministry has further identified, that's a third one, and consciously selected a team of men and women to sit on the local organizing committee that will spearhead preparations to successfully host the Confederation of African Athletics Championship. You are aware that the PS I would say has been the chairperson of a committee which was not unveiled, but obviously knew that in the background some of the issues have been going on. So the chairperson who is the PS today or after will be able to hand over now to the organizing chairperson, local organizing.
To end our news, we now join DW with a roundup of international news.
Operators of computer servers around the world are assessing the damage following a massive assault by hackers. The ransomware attack began in Italy. There, internet and mobile phone operators report that their servers have failed over a large area. Now, the organization NetBlocks has calculated that the activity on some online servers was only 26% of the normal level. The incident comes the same day as known as Safer Internet Day, which aims to draw global attention to the dangers of inadequate internet security. Now, for more, let's bring in Wael Eskander, a project developer at Technical Tech, a nonprofit based here in Berlin. Welcome back to the program, Wael. How significant is it that Italy says it wasn't a state entity that launched these attacks?
I think this is very significant in trying to understand where the expertise comes from these kind of attacks. Although at the same time, we've seen a lot of private companies build the capacity to create these kind of attacks and work closely with governments through things like cyber surveillance, which a lot of software is being produced right now, which creates this kind of expertise for companies and individuals. And then it's used back against some of the states. And it's really interesting, especially in Italy, because some of the companies there are well known to provide governments with surveillance software. And so therefore you could imagine this kind of expertise being cultivated within the corporate sector, not just inside governments.
So this attack apparently has been exploiting a 2-year-old bug on computer servers. Tell us more about that.
Well, the issue here is that a lot of the time software has some of the bugs that are there that are not really known to everyone. They don't really understand where this kind of glitch is, and because people don't update their software usually with the patches, the security patches, for a lot of different reasons, operational and otherwise, like just time-based capacity. These kind of vulnerabilities exist in a lot of older software, which we don't know about it. That doesn't mean that newer software doesn't have these vulnerabilities, but it's very easy for attackers to kind of attack with old vulnerabilities for those who have not updated their software or their, patched up the security flaws.
So well, basically, the issue here is what experts like you and others have been preaching over the years, update your software. That's what hasn't happened in this case.
Yeah, with old software where it's not discovered, then you have to update your software. But at the same time, the problem is a lot bigger where because of competition, a lot of products have to roll out really quickly without enough security testing. And I think that's a trend that needs a little bit more of action on the side of companies and corporations that provide services and software where they can test properly before they roll out, rather than trying to release early to get ahead in competition. So it's kind of double-folded there. But at least from a perspective of people using software, they need to update with security patches as soon as possible.
What we saw yesterday with this ransomware attack, was that a taste of more to come?
I think that a lot of the times ahead will show us that there is more kind of these attacks. Data is very, very valuable, and a lot of people will, that's where the real value is. I think with the expertise and with it paying off a lot of the time, we can expect some more attacks unless there is structural measures taken to kind of make sure that security is a top priority.